Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Over the past month or so, I have gotten a bunch of requests from viewers wanting me to do a breakdown on my fuel expenses and whether or not the current fuel prices are affecting how I'm fishing, how much I'm fishing. Are there things I can do to maybe save a few dollars on the amount of fuel that I'm utilizing when I'm fishing or when I'm driving? So I'm going to get into that. I've got here all of my receipts from my most recent tournament at the Harris Chain Lakes. So I want to talk about, how much it cost me to fish that tournament and whether or not the fuel prices are in fact having an impact on tournament anglers like myself, tournament anglers like you guys at home, shore fishermen like you guys at home, just average weekenders who are going out. Is it having an impact? I personally think it is. I've talked to a lot of people that are changing tournament schedules at the local scene because they don't want to travel as far. I've talked to some college kids here in town that aren't fishing as much just off the bank because it costs them more in gas money to get back and forth to different spots. It's really having an effect. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm a little worried that we might actually shake some people out of the sport. When we had COVID, a lot of people got into the sport because they were home more. They had the ability to get outside. It was a good thing to do to get outside, a safe thing to do. And in this case, I'm now worried that we might be pushing some people out of the sport because the expense is going to be so high. So I'm going to get into it. I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm sure that I'm going to get people saying, Matt, you're living the dream. Stop complaining. If you don't like it, get out. I'm just giving you guys the facts. I'm not complaining. I'm giving you the facts of what it is to fish at the professional level for myself. Now, I recognize the fact that I live in Wisconsin. I'm going to have a lot more fuel costs. It's going to affect me a lot more than somebody who is living in Florida 2 hours away from the Harris Chain Lakes. So their fuel costs aren't going to be as high. But I'll tell you what, when they got to drive to New York or they got to drive up north, they're going to see the same impact on their wallet and their bottom line that I'm seeing as well. So that's what I want to get into. I do want to remind you guys, though, that if you do want to support the channel, there's two things that you can do for sure. The first is go to fishthemoment.com. Check out the lake breakdowns that I've done. I've got lake breakdowns for northern bodies of water, smallmouth only breakdowns for some of the best smallmouth lakes in the country. Myself, Randy Blockett, Johnny Schultz, we were all doing lake breakdowns to help you guys catch more fish so that when you spend the money to drive to your lake, you're more successful. So check out those lake breakdowns. You can also request a personal lake breakdown if there's a lake I have not done yet. The other thing is, if you're looking to buy some tackle, use the affiliate tackle warehouse links that I've provided in the description. That's a great way to support the channel. A small percentage of your total purchase price is kicked back to the channel. And it's a good way to help me combat these high gas prices. All right, guys, so here are some of the numbers. I've compiled the data on what it cost me to fish that event. So the first thing to recognize is the entry fee to fish the Harris Chain Tournament was $5,700. So that is a huge expense right off the top. My round trip was roughly 3,100 miles. So I'm not even taking into account the wear and tear on my vehicle, the fact that I'll need an oil change a lot faster than I would have beforehand. I'm not even going to look at that stuff. I'm just going to look at my fuel prices. So I'm running a diesel truck, towing my boat all the way down. I averaged a little over 12 miles per gallon, which I know is not great. But keep in mind, I've got my vehicle going about 10 miles over the speed limit on cruise control all the way because honestly, guys, when I'm driving 1,400 miles to Florida, if I'm going 10 miles an hour faster, I'm going to have 2 hours less of driving time by going I set it 9 miles over the speed limit. So I'm going to save roughly 2 hours of drive time each way by doing it. Yes, I'm going to spend a little bit more on gas money because the vehicle's working harder, but it really is not much. Driving a diesel like I'm driving, it pulls the truck great at either speed. So it's not a huge impact, but I recognize that it is a little bit more. Just something to give to you guys so you see all of the facts that I'm putting out there. The total gas receipts that I have, I spent $1,189.53 to get there and back and drive around the Harris Chain. The highest I paid was $5.69 a gallon, and I believe that was, if I recall correctly, it was like Kentucky or Tennessee. Surprisingly, the prices actually got more expensive as I drove south. The cheapest gas was in Wisconsin, which normally is not that way. Normally, we're one of the highest, but in Wisconsin, when I got back, I fueled up for, I believe it was 4.70 a gallon. So that was kind of a nice surprise to see. Florida wasn't too bad either. They were right around $5. Everywhere else, most of the time I was in like that 5.25 range. Way more than I would like to see. Definitely expensive fill-ups. In fact, I actually had to stop more because most gas pumps were still capped at either $100 or $125 for fill-up, which means I wasn't even getting a full fill-up in my tank every time I stopped. Although it did make it easier to compile my receipts because a lot of these are $125 fill-ups or $100 fill-ups, and I just decided not to swipe again to put another couple gallons in the truck. Boat gas, I filled up 3 times. Now I did have 2 days of practice, although I was sick for 1 day, so I really didn't get out. I did get out for a little bit, but I burnt basically no fuel. And then 2 days in the tournament, so I did not qualify for day 3 or day 4. And my gas for the boat came up to $203.17. And I can assure you that that is on the low end for the tournament anglers who were there because of the fact that I never left Harris Lake, which is the takeoff lake. And some guys were running an hour north or south. So I can assure you that my gas was on the very low end of that tournament for most of the competitors. The licensing, I believe, came up to $53 for a Florida license. I'm not going to include into this food, even though you could easily include in your food expenses. I'm just not going to do it because I would have been eating food whether I was at home or not. I'm also not putting in any money for bait and tackle expenses because I have everything I need. I did buy a little bit of tackle while I was there, but truth be told, I've got a lot of tackle on the wall, so I'm not even going to figure that into the cost. So all of that combined makes up the primary expenses of fishing that tournament, and my expenses, including entry fee, came up to $7,351.70. Which means in order to recoup that, I would have needed to finish 59th or higher to win a $10,000 check or more, which I did not do. I finished 83rd, so I came home with 0 in my pocket. But the reality is the risk reward there is pretty sketchy because with $7,300, say $7,400 with a little bit of tackle I bought, if you win a $10,000 check, at that point, you're still only bringing home $2,600. That's a good payday for 1 week worth of work. But at the same time, the risk return there is a return on your money on the expenses that I had of roughly 35%. Well, 35%, in my opinion, is not a good return when you are looking at putting down roughly $7,400 to try to win $10,000. When the reality is only about a third of the people fishing are going to cash a $10,000 check. I do personally believe that I'm good enough of a fisherman to cash a $10,000 check in all of the tournaments. The reality is, though, it does not happen all of the time. I'm very consistent when it comes to cashing checks, but when you don't cash a check, it hurts, guys. $7,400 out of my pocket. And that means I'm going to, in order to have to recoup that, I need to cash basically my next 3 tournaments, I need to cash 3 $10,000 checks to pick up for the lost money I made in this one. That's the reality of the sport. It's pretty tough. It's not, at this point, I really view tournaments at the professional level as being a vehicle to allow you to promote your sponsors. If I don't fish the tournaments, I lose the sponsors. And I've got absolutely phenomenal sponsor support that helps me do this. But the reality is the money that, you put in your pocket is kind of the money from the tournament. So if you're not cashing checks, you're not really putting any money in your pocket. Yeah, so the numbers aren't great. So the question is, what are some things that we can do to potentially save a little bit of money? Well, I don't know that there's that many options. as a professional angler, I don't want to let the bottom dollar really affect my decision making. So if it means I got to spend a little bit more money in gas to do something the way I want to do it from a tournament standpoint, I'm probably going to do it. But there are some simple things you can do. During practice days, maybe instead of running full bore from one spot to another, you pull it off and you run at 2/3 power. You're going to increase your fuel savings at that point by probably about a third, if not a little bit more, 50% potentially. So you'll save a little bit of money there. When you're driving to the lake, maybe you tune it down a little bit in terms of your cruise control. You run at the speed limit. It's going to take you a little longer to get there, but the reality is you're going to burn less gas in your vehicle. The other option is like if you're going to a place like the Harris Chain or a large lake, like say Kentucky Lake or someplace where you can run 80 miles, it's easier if you have the ability to fish an area, load the boat up, and drive to another part of the lake. You'll save money by towing the boat to that area versus driving your boat 60 miles down lake to fish a new area. Now, having said all of that, if you are on a lake where you have to pay a loading fee or a boat ramp fee, if you've got $5 or $10 ramp fees and you're launching multiple times, you're probably just going to end up spending the same amount of money to launch your boat as you would to drive your boat back and forth. So there's not a good option in this, guys. For the shore fishermen, you guys are in the same position. A lot of the best shore fishermen out there like to spot hop. When I was in college, like the college kids I talked to, we've got around town here, we're right on the Wisconsin River. There are probably 20 really good shore fishing spots. But most of those shore fishing spots are spots you walk down to the river, you fish around the bridge, and then you go to the next spot. Before you know it, you could be driving 60 or 70 miles to fish a handful of spots. So the shore fishermen, even though you don't have fuel expenses for your boat, you're in the same position if you're driving to multiple places. So there's no perfect answer here, guys. The fact is, if you want to go fishing, you're going to end up having to drop some money to drive there, to move your boat around if you've got a boat. It's the same thing. The kayak fishermen are feeling the same thing. Yeah, you don't have any fuel expenses when it comes to fishing, but you do have fuel expenses to drive to the lake. You got fuel expenses to to tow your kayak to wherever you're going. And a lot of kayak fishermen do the same thing as like a shore fisherman. You put in at one ramp, you fish around. Once you're done with that area, you load up, you go to another area and you fish there. So you've got a lot of fuel expenses in terms of driving around as well. It's an unfortunate position that we're in. I don't have any great solutions for you. Like I said, for me personally, I'm going to try to not let it affect my decision making. I'm sure in practice I'll spend a little bit less time zooming around the lake at full throttle. I'll probably tow the boat a few more times to get to different areas of the lake, but the cost savings in doing that is not going to be really that high when you look at the fact that I've got $7,400 in expenses anyways. Yes, if I can save $100 in gas, that's great. I love saving money. Most of the people that know me call me a very cheap person because I like to save money. But the reality is it's not going to have a huge impact on my bottom line for the year, unfortunately. The biggest impact we can have is to have fuel prices drop back down. That's the quickest way. I mean, when I compare paying, filling up a tank for $5.69 a gallon, if I'm buying 100 gallons at $5.69 versus 100 gallons at what I paid here in Stevens Point at $4.69, that's $1 savings per gallon. I save $100 just based on the fuel prices dropping. That's a much easier way to do it. Unfortunately, that's out of my control right now. So guys, I hope this shed a little bit of light on the expenses. I'm sorry that I don't have a very precise way for everyone to save money. It's just something that I don't have the solution to. But if you guys do have some good suggestions, put it up in the comment section so that all of us that are watching can learn from you guys and the ideas that you have. Because like I said, I think we all would be happy saving a few bucks right now if we can come up with a couple of good ways to do that. So please share in the comment section. If you've got questions regarding my expenses, I feel I'm very open with it. I really have nothing to hide. It's all pretty much public knowledge anyways. I can just show it to you. So Stay tuned, guys. We got more tips and tricks video coming out every day. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to your to the channel, share it on your social media pages, and stay tuned. Thanks for watching.